CryEngine is a game engine developed by Crytek, first unveiled in the early 2000s and initially showcased in Far Cry in 2004. It gained worldwide fame with the release of Crysis in 2007, which used CryEngine 2 to set new milestones in real-time graphics. Crysis became synonymous with cutting-edge visuals and high hardware demands, giving rise to the popular saying, "Can it run Crysis?", as the game was widely used as a PC benchmark. CryEngine's advanced rendering of lush jungles, realistic lighting, and large open environments established Crytek as a leader in graphics technology, especially in game engines. And throughout the late 2000s, CryEngine continued to evolve with CryEngine 2 and 3, which powered titles like the Crysis trilogy and Rise: Son of Rome, as well as a few licensed games by other studios. They had a game engine that anyone wanted to get a piece of, so in the 2000s, they entered war with Unity and Unreal to get the biggest market share of the game development industry. But the developers of CryEngine made a fatal mistake early on that they spent a couple of decades trying to fix without avail. So what is that exactly, and how Unity and Unreal destroyed them in the process? Despite its visual strengths, CryEngine faced a lot of problems. In its early years, using CryEngine required expensive pre-project deals negotiated directly with Crytek. This approach missed the beat, to say the least. Just as rival engines were lower in barriers to entry, Unity, which was launched in the mid-2000s, offered an affordable, user-friendly engine with a one-time or free license model, quickly attracting indie developers. Epic's Unreal Engine followed suit by releasing the free Unreal Development Kit in 2009, and later Unreal Engine 4 with low-cost subscriptions in 2014, and ultimately a free with royalties model. By contrast, CryEngine's initially high licensing costs and lack of indie-friendly package caused it to lag in community growth. Actually, it shot itself in the foot, to be honest. Maybe they thought they only needed big developers, but time has proven them very wrong. Developers also found CryEngine less accessible in practice. It was often considered not very artist-friendly. You see, the problem is in the steep learning curve, and relatively poor documentation and community support, and you will see how this will bite them in the ass later on. Facing these headwinds, Crytek made several interesting shifts to hopefully push CryEngine in the right direction, because they knew a thick wall was looming in the horizon. So in August 2011, Crytek released a free CryEngine 3 SDK for non-commercial use to entice hobbyists and indies. This marked the beginning of a more open strategy, and by March 2014, following Epic's move to a $19 per month Unreal Engine subscription, Crytek announced its own subscription licensing at $9.90 a month with no royalties, which was a nice deal, because Crytek were obviously trying to overcompensate for their prior screw-up. On the other hand, this was obviously undercutting Epic's price and making CryEngine more accessible to smaller developers. In 2016, Crytek went even further by launching CryEngine 5 as a pay-what-you-want product, effectively allowing developers to use the full engine and source code for free. This new model eliminated upfront fees and royalties entirely, aiming to remove cost barriers. Crytek also introduced a marketplace for engine assets and a community hub to improve support. But they weren't just focusing on these sneaky moves, aiming to win the community back, because alongside licensing changes, Crytek continued to push technical improvements. They actually added support for DirectX 12 and VR, also a new overhead renderer for better performance, in addition to advanced volumetric cloud system optimized for VR, also a C# scripting API, and other modern features. These updates were intended to keep the engine competitive, in comparison with Unreal Engine 4 and Unity's rapid advancements. Unfortunately, despite Crytek's efforts, these late adjustments struggled to grow CryEngine's market share significantly, as many developers had already committed to the thriving Unity and Unreal ecosystems. Here's the thing, Crytek were not only fighting demons, that is Epic and Unity. The underlying CryEngine decline was accompanied by serious internal issues at Crytek, which hammered the engine's support and future. So in 2014, Crytek fell into financial crisis, no pun intended. There were widespread reports of employees going unpaid for months and projects being cancelled. The company had overexpanded with multiple studios and costly projects, and its Xbox One launch title, Rise in 2013, failed to become a sustainable franchise, which was a great game by the way. I have no clue why it failed. Crytek's cash flow problems nearly led them to bankruptcy in mid-2014. The situation cast doubt on CryEngine's viability, as one developer noted in 2017. Who knows if CryEngine and Crytek will be around in 5 years, highlighting Crytek's instability, which made studios hesitant to bet on its engine. You see, Crytek's financial woes forced their hand into taking emergency measures. One of the examples I will mention is that the company sold off some game IPs, for example Homefront, which was sold to Deep Silver in 2014. In addition to this, they sought investors. In a behind-closed-door deal in 2015, Amazon swooped in with a huge licensing agreement for CryEngine, reportedly paying around $50 to $70 million, according to some sources. Dumping their valuable assets brought the company some time and kept them afloat. Even Crytek's founder later acknowledged this licensing deal as a lifeline. However, this lifeline can only last so long. So by late 2016, Crytek was again in crisis. Employees went unpaid for half a year and morals plummeted. In December 2016, Crytek announced it was closing 5 of its 7 studios, and it was consolidating operations in a couple of its studios. The company cited the need to refocus on its core strength, like its IP and engine, but it was clear that years of failing to license CryEngine as widely as Epic and Unity and the lack of hit games had taken a toll on them. The downsizing and leadership change in 2018 actually marked the end of this era, during which Crytek's CEO and founder stepped down, with his brother taking over. Nonetheless, CryEngine's development continued at Crytek for their own games. For example, Hunt Showdown in 2019 and future Crysis 4, which is planned to release hopefully in the future. But the engine's influence in the wider industry had greatly diminished. Many outside developers either never considered it or migrated away due to the uncertain support and dwindling community. This was not the end of the story, however. One of the pivotal moments in CryEngine's story came when Amazon entered the picture. You see, Amazon had ambitions in the game development industry around 2014 to 2015. So as Crytek faltered, Amazon negotiated a licensing deal to obtain CryEngine's source code. So in April 2015, Insider revealed that Amazon paid tens of millions of dollars to license CryEngine technology, as I said earlier, between $50 to $70 million. The deal was large enough to rescue Crytek, essentially trading the engine tech for much needed cash. But Amazon's intent soon became clear, because obviously they weren't the angel that was gonna save Crytek from the disaster just for the sake of it. So in 2016, Amazon Lumberyard, its own free game engine derived from CryEngine. Lumberyard was a heavily modified branch of CryEngine designed to tie into Amazon's ecosystem. But Amazon knew that they are very late to the game engine market, so right out of the bat, they made Lumberyard completely free for developers, no licensing fees or royalties, with the only catch being integration with Amazon Web Services for online features. So technically Lumberyard started from CryEngine's acclaimed render engines and tools, but Amazon invested in making it in its own direction. It shipped with full source code available to developers, but under a proprietary license that forbade releasing your own fork for the engine. Essentially, Amazon was using CryEngine as a foundation to create a new engine to attract developers to the Amazon Web Services and build its own games. The launch of Lumberyard generated some buzz, simply because it was a rare instance when a tech giant released a AAA-capable game engine for free. Some projects actually did adopt it, notably the ambitious crowdfunded game Star Citizen, which went from CryEngine to Lumberyard. Since it was largely based on CryEngine, and Amazon's backing promised more long-term support. On a side note, this led to a legal spat, where Crytek sued Star Citizen developers for abandoning CryEngine, so the lawsuit was eventually dismissed. Amazon's internal game studios also began using Lumberyard for their own projects. For example, the team that developed the MMO New World and the ill-fated shooter Crucible, which was built on Lumberyard. But how did it impact the game development industry? And how Amazon dealt with this new game engine is a topic for another video, so let me know if you want that in the comment section below. And there you have it, guys. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, please subscribe to this channel to receive more videos like this. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.